What is up, one and all? Welcome into the Beat of Sports on FM 96.9 The Game. It's a terrific Thursday. KV's dancing behind you.
Want to see Katie,
it's very
KV dancing? Check out the stream.
technotronic right now. all love. Chris Vasquez here as well. Marc Daniels will join us next hour before UCF hits the road to take on West Virginia in college hoops. It's sort of an interesting debate on what we allow to cross over and what we don't. I don't know if you remember this from a few years back, CV, when Papa John got in trouble. Remember that?
Yep.
And Papa John's was a pizza sponsor for many places, including the Orlando Magic, where you win a game, you get half off pizza the next day, right? And they did this with baseball teams and basketball teams. Like they're partners all over, right? And there was a lot of like, oh God, we got to distance ourselves from that now because of what he did. Well, they are back, right? It at some point, and I remember saying that at the time is, you step back and then you go back to it because it's been a good partnership. He doesn't represent the whole brand or the pizza. Right. It's just one person and his poor choices. But some of the choices definitely catch your attention, and this one definitely did. And NBA players have opinions on the choice the Atlanta Hawks are making. I don't know if you're aware of this, but
the Magic City night
against the Orlando Magic.
Fitting.
Yes. On March 16th, the Atlanta Hawks, and their words, not mine, will be honoring an iconic cultural institution in Magic City. For those not in the know, Magic City is a strip club in Atlanta. Never been. Not against anyone that wants to go. Knock yourself out, all right? Not against it. Have your own principles and views on that part of it. But Luke Cornett doesn't play for the Hawks, but had a very well-made known opinion in regards to the Hawks allowing for such a night at a basketball game to honor, of all places, a strip club. Now, organizations have to make these choices, who they want to partner up with and what represents them best. And certainly, Lord knows, in the political climate we're in now, everyone has opinions that in some ways, shape, and form, I don't know how much they should matter or shouldn't matter. That's up for you to decide. Maybe they matter too much. But he doesn't think they should do it. Where do you sit on the Hawks' decision? And by the way, they're not backing off of it, at least not yet. They still got 11 days to change their mind. But as of right now, they're choosing to honor a very famous place, but a place that not all of their fan base, certainly not all the maybe children in attendance, would want to see honor.
I don't see an issue with it simply because it's not like we're going to see strippers dancing during every timeout. They're bringing the food. Food there is supposed to be really good.
Right. The wings allegedly are famous. Lou Williams will tell you. Lemon pepper. If you know, you know.
So just because it's a strip club, again, there's not strippers dancing. They're not flaunting around. Yes, kids aren't going to know what that place is. But at the same time, I just don't see an issue with it.
Mm.
Do you?
If the presentation is simply, we have food, we're honoring somebody on the floor, and there's nothing to see, then I suppose and if you want to boycott the game and not go to the game, and then you're entitled to do that. I understand, though, where somebody could be off put by it, right? And I'd also understand where NBA player like Luke Cornett and others have chimed in. Al Horford's a longtime Hawk. He's on board with Luke Cornett saying this shouldn't be something we're bringing up. It gets into like the levels of like, all right, if maybe Papa John's isn't your favorite pizza, are you not going to the game because they're a sponsoring partner? or Kia, right? And you don't drive a Kia, you don't like Kias. Like it can reach certain levels of like, is that a problem? Really? I personally would not have done it if I was in charge of the Hawks. I'd feel like, yeah, that's getting into a gray area. I don't want to dive into here.
Are we boycotting the NBA as a whole?
I mean, look,
No,
some
no, no,
people.
no. Hold on, hold on.
Yeah, yeah.
Are we boycotting the NBA for guys like Chauncey Billups? For who is the I'm blanking on the name, the NBA player who got Terry Rozier.
Mm-hmm.
Are we boycotting because they were involved
Damon
in
Jones.
gambling?
Yeah.
Are we going to boycott the NBA because of what Tim Donahue did? There's guys fixing games. Are we going to boycott the NBA for that?
I mean, look, there's some people allegedly aren't watching the NFL anymore because of Colin Kaepernick. I don't know if that's true or not, but like to each their own. Like people are going to make these decisions or at least speak loudly about them. I just thought it was sort of fascinating that they made the decision to do this, and there's been pushback, and they're holding their ground. I mean, if they feel like there's nothing that is going to negatively influence those that are in attendance, then okay. Like I'm with you. Like if you are a Hawks fan or you have Hawks season tickets, I don't know that it should bother you any more than it should bother you that Papa John's is being served at an arena and you don't like that, or you don't drive a Kia.
It'll be a one-time thing where you voice your frustration, you voice your displeasure with the night. The night happens. The next night we move on.
Right.
It's a forgotten story.
Yeah. But Magic City Monday coming when the Orlando Magic are in town. So if you're a Magic fan, I don't know how much they'll show of that during the telecast. Probably none of it, but you might get to see with your own two eyes next week when that happens.
Again, I don't have an issue with it. It is what it is.
Yeah, we're just, I mean, look, like Lou Holtz, we were talking about him earlier, very strong political beliefs toward the end of his life that he made known. You don't have to agree or disagree with it. Like, to me, I can always separate, if you will, church and state. Like, hey, who he was as a football coach, who he was as a broadcaster, who he is as a person and his political beliefs. Like,
I do miss the days of when politics weren't so heavily talked about.
Yeah, it's definitely different than it was even like 15, 20 years ago. Like
For sure.
politics, like religion was one of those things you just didn't bring up in conversation for the fear of, I guess, alienating somebody or making somebody else mad. But like on some level, I've always been like, hey, we can talk about anything. Like I've sort of taken pride. I can talk about anything. It's really hard to offend me with anything. Like you can be offensive.
Yeah.
But to offend me, if you want to have a conversation about something, is really hard to do. So I'm open-minded to have conversations on things, but not everyone is.
Well, it's just funny. People can't have civil conversations. It's you're an idiot for believing this,
Right.
or you got to resort to name calling. And half the times when you're being insulted, the guy who's insulting you or the person who's insulting you doesn't have facts. You're just opposing their point of view.
Right.
And for that, you're an idiot.
Right.
So you can't have civil conversations with anyone about anything.
Yep. We're going to have some civil conversations today, though, I promise. In fact, you're wearing a Cowboys hat. I want to bring up the Dallas Cowboys at some point during the show today and get your thoughts on something that I'm very curious what your opinion is on it.
I think I know what it is.
Okay.
You haven't told me, but I think I know what
I have not told you. I'm not sure it's what you think it is.
Oh, now you got me confused. Now you might be throwing me off. Now I don't know.
I think it might throw you off. I don't think it's as obvious as you might think it is, but that's going to come up today. I want to discuss next here, and then we'll get to Marc Daniels in the segment after, a poll that was recently done on The Athletic. About 15,000 people responded that were baseball fans in regards to the state of the game in baseball. We got the World Baseball Classic getting underway, spring training underway. I'm a big baseball fan. I know you're a Braves fan. I don't know what degree of a baseball fan you are, but the results of the poll are the reason I want to bring it up, because I want to get your thoughts, even as maybe a casual baseball fan, on where you would have voted in these things. That's coming up. It's the Beat of Sports. It's time for our Bad Dad Joke of the Day.
It's almost like an unwritten rule that when you become a father, you become king of the bad dad jokes.
What is Forrest Gump's password? 1Forrest1.
Are you ready to laugh? We know at least one person is. Here's CB's dad joke of the day.
Oh, that's so great.
All right, Tuck. Let's see if I can make you laugh with this one. Why should you always knock on your refrigerator?
Why should you always knock on your refrigerator? I do not know, Chris.
In case there's a salad dressing.
Oh. I'll share that with my son later, and he'll make fun of me for it. So that tells you all you need to know.
Welcome back to the Beat of Sports. Filling in for Marc Daniels, here's Mike Tuck.
What is up? It's a terrific Thursday in the month of March, one of my favorite sports months of the year. Baseball starting, March Madness, into the NBA season, into the NHL season. Arnold Palmer Invitational getting underway. All kinds of great stuff going on in the world of sports right now. Baseball season getting underway, and there appears to be an inevitable work stoppage, a lockout coming December 1st later this year. We're going to get a full season in, and then who knows where we go from there. And there's a lot of opinions on where we should go from there. They ran in a poll at The Athletic, a big fan of The Athletic, and about 15,000 people or so responded to it. So pretty good group, and certainly baseball invested people you would think that are going to vote in such a poll. And I wanted to get Chris Vasquez, and I would like for you to tell me, because I don't actually know exactly where you would fall in this. On a 1 to 10 scale, with 10 being super fan and 1 being don't care, where would you fall as a baseball fan?
I think right now I'm probably about a 5.
Okay, right in the middle.
Yeah.
All right. So I'd like for you to answer the following questions, and we'll go over the results, and I want to get your thoughts on said results.
Okay.
Which of the following best describes your feelings about the current overall state of MLB? Enthusiastic, hopeful, indifferent, disappointed, or upset?
I think right now I'm indifferent.
Indifferent.
Mhm.
Indifferent only garnered 11% of the vote. The only thing lower was upset at 4%. Disappointed was 18. Hopeful was 46. That was by far the largest. And enthusiastic, 21. So 67, 2/3 were either enthusiastic or hopeful. Why would you say you're indifferent?
I think I've fallen kind of out of love with the game. I grew up watching it on TBS. Again, big Braves fan,
Mhm.
love Chipper Jones, Andrew Jones. I knew the players. And yes, you dealt with the Yankees, and they were always stacked at every single position. They were the ones that, they spent the most money, and you kind of expected that, but not really anybody else. To the point now, you have the Dodgers and the Yankees. You have teams that aren't spending, like the Rays, the Pirates, the Marlins. Um, those teams kind of bug me. And just some of the rule changes, like the shift.
Mhm.
If you want to be able to shift. You don't like it, shifts are very easy to beat, but nobody wants to beat it, so they complain about it, and now we have a rule change.
I'll remember what I read. This is where I would tend to think the way you thought, and then I remember a couple of years back now, probably 3 years back, Albert Pujols was asked about that,
Mhm.
right? Because the idea is, all right, if nobody's playing on the left side of the diamond, just hit it over there,
Yeah.
right? And Pujols went through and answered it. It's not nearly as easy as you would think, with pitchers throwing what they're throwing and how they're throwing and where they're. And this is arguably the greatest hitter of his generation.
Mhm.
So if he feels that way, then I'm probably an idiot for thinking it's easier to do than it should
I'm
be.
not saying I'm not saying it's easy by any means, but it's like 2 high safeties in the NFL. We're gonna ban that because quarterbacks can't throw? Like, no, it's not gonna happen.
We'll come back around to that. Okay, I think there's some rules questions in here, so I'll
Okay.
save that. How would you rate the job the commissioner Rob Manfred has done? It is 5 being excellent, 1 being poor scale.
I don't wanna be in the middle every single time.
You can be wherever you want to be, man.
No, I know. Like, some of the rule changes have sped up the time of the game. I know that was a big issue, so I applaud him for that. I kinda like the runner on second base to start extra innings, again, speeding up the game.
Mhm.
I don't like the shift, and if you have a lockout on your tenure, I think that hurts you a lot. And the fact that we're trending towards a lockout next year in Major League Baseball, I'm gonna put him at a 2.
A 2, okay, so you decided to go on the lower end of it. By far, 3, right in the middle, was
Yeah.
42%, and then it was split between 2 and 4, 24% for 2, 20% for 4, and then only 2% would give him a 5, 12% give him a 1. So most people find he's somewhere in that middle area, the vast majority of his performance. The rules changes, I think, contribute a lot of people liking from what it says. And then the 2022 lockout, he was a 1 or a 2 back then on the same kind of a poll. So even where that is now, if we end up with a lockout at the end of the year, then we could see it shift back. Because to your point, like that's never good for anybody.
Yeah.
The Dodgers are back-to-back champs. Are they good or bad for baseball? Good, bad, or no opinion?
Oh, you have just such extremes on both ends of the scale. Again, you have the Dodgers who I guess found a loophole with the deferred money. And then again, you have the A's, the Marlins, teams like that who just don't spend at all. Everyone needs a villain. Everyone needs a villain to hate. That way the hero can come up if it's a team that we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I hate it, I'll say they're good for baseball.
All right. So real quick before I tell you the results, my follow-up to you would be, are the Panthers bad for hockey?
I can't answer that because I don't watch hockey.
Okay. Well, they're back-to-back champions. Are the Chiefs bad for football? I know they're not the current champions, but they did go to 3 straight Super Bowls.
You can't compare the Chiefs to the Dodgers.
I'm just asking on its face. I'm just talking about one team being successful. And then the same thing the NBA would be, I guess, would you say, are the Warriors or the Lakers bad for basketball?
You can make more of a comparison for the Lakers, and the Warriors, actually.
The Warriors kind of really rich over.
Chiefs for football, I'll say no.
Okay.
I think they're good for football.
It's certainly, it's not like we have, I guess where I'm going with this is every sport has this. And I would think in most cases, we tend to like the idea of dominance until it's too long. And then we get alienated by it and we're rooting against it.
The whole thing with the Dodgers, though, is just the fact that they're spending so much money on every single position, the deferred money. And it's like, all right, well, why are we even playing a season?
52% said bad, 32% said good, 16% for some reason said no opinion. I don't know if they couldn't make up their mind. I feel like you have to have an opinion, and then it's a very need to describe the opinion. It's the reason why when I teach, I say don't ask yes no questions, because most people want to expand beyond a yes or no. It's not as simple as a yes or no. This would certainly qualify for that, as you didn't want to just fall on one necessarily or the other. I'll read a couple of the responses. All these have responses. I don't think the Dodgers are bad. Italicized. Very well done by the writer Matthew here with the Dodgers. They are doing what teams should do, maximize their chances of winning, but the system that makes it significantly easier for big market teams to compete is a broken system. So that's probably as well said as you could say it. Another person, Steven, said, I said the Dodgers are good for baseball because they have a heel, because having a heel is fun. You mentioned that. But I believe how they leverage their money can be problematic, especially given that no team responds in kind, which is another problem, is that even the other rich teams, you've named all the poor teams, all the rich teams, like where are you guys at when it comes to Kyle Tucker?
Well, I mean, we're seeing the Mets kind of start to spend.
The Mets have been spending. Yeah, there's no question.
But you're not really seeing the Yankees be the Yankees of old.
Where's the Red Sox? Where are the Cubs? Like there's plenty of money out there. It is 10 o'clock, WYGM Orlando, WJRR, HD2 Cocoa Beach, FM 96.9 The Game, AM 740, Orlando sports leader Mike Tuck in for Marc Daniels. Mark will join us before he departs the city beautiful on a flight to head to West Virginia coming up in our next segment.
And you can listen to us, again, FM 96.9 The Game, AM 740, iHeartRadio, or watch us on X or YouTube.
Yes, we're right here on the stream.
Or on X at 96.9 Game On, or just YouTube 96.9 The Game.
With the prevalence of gambling in baseball, are you worried about the integrity of the game? Yes, no, or no opinion?
You're always worried about the integrity of the game.
What percentage got yes? That was the quickest one you answered.
I'll say 65.
77.
Mm-hmm.
19 said no, 4% no opinion. I don't know who you know opinion people.
These have to be like the casual fans that they just found.
Yeah,
but especially with all the two Guardians pitchers that got popped, and now they're
undeniably, it's one of the biggest stories I think as we go in the next 10 years of sports is where the gambling is, and we've already talked and debated like what should be allowed, not be allowed, all the sports, college athletics. as you mentioned, Class A and the Guardians. And
Is there going to be, I don't want to say an elimination. I think that's too extreme, and I don't think that would ever happen. There's just too much money involved. But will there be something done about the prop bet?
I think that's where we are inevitably we're heading. We almost have to, especially if you consider that the commissioners view the value clearly in what all of the books provide them financially for their leagues. And if it's hey, you scratch our back, we scratch your back. Hey, this is beginning to be a scratch we can't reach. We need to remove that. And look, there are very few. Like, you look at the number of people that actually gamble versus those that the amount that it's talked about, it's way split. I mean, it's like 90% don't gamble and 8% do. And then there's a few that dabble, right? And so if you were to consider that, I think if you're Rob Manfred or any of the commissioners, at some point you're like, hey, you got to do us a solid. We can get rid of the degenerates live, or not even the live's not even necessarily the problem. It's the prop bets before the game. Right. Yeah. I think that's where we got to go with it.
I mean, prop bets like first pitch strike, as we've seen. The over unders are kind of hard. Like, at least in baseball, those are kind of hard to manipulate. But like in basketball, over under on rebounds, you can just kind of tap yourself out of the game. Like a lot of it can be easily manipulated to where you make sure, hey, I'm gonna get hurt. X amount of time into the game, X amount of minutes into the game. I'm gonna do what I can to get this amount of points or this amount of rebounds. You just take the under.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun thing. Again, like even for years, right? Especially get to the Super Bowl, there's so many prop bets involved. And I think there's a joy of, hey, let's have some fun discussing some of these things and our expectations. But yeah, I think with live being a very real thing now because of technology, we don't necessarily need anything before the game.
No,
that eliminates so much. You'd have to really get creative if you're the athlete coordinating with somebody as far as what that number becomes as the game gets underway. So where do you think baseball is heading starting next year?
Where do you mean heading? In terms of what?
There is what appears to be an inevitable lockout, right?
Yeah.
The Players Association with Tony Clark's got their own things to sort, all right? So it's certainly not trending in the right direction with what happened here recently. So what do you think we'll be looking at in 2027?
I don't know. Between all of that, between some teams want a salary cap where players don't want the salary cap.
No player would.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Why limit your earning?
Oh, I get it.
Potential. And not just the top of the top, but if there's a cap, then the middle gets affected, the bottom gets affected because it all has to fit under a cap.
I think this lockout's really going to hurt baseball. They had some momentum going.
I think they have great momentum going.
This lockout's going to put the kibosh on all of it. It's really going to be bad
if it carries into the season for sure. Again, there's somebody like myself, I enjoy hot stove league in December and January and free agency and all that. That will suck if, that's not out there to discuss. But the games, until we get to March, really, it's not as big of a deal if they can resolve it in that 3-month window. But they got a lot to discuss and go over.
And this is what I don't get is you have all this time. It's being talked about. A lockout is coming.
Well, it's like a college football playoff.
But why
can't multiple years to get that thing sorted out?
Why can we not get together, hammer everything out, spend hours, days, weeks in a room if you have to, but hammer everything out that needs to be locked.
I think they're here and here, though. I think they're
okay. So again,
there's polarity.
Spend time in a room together and just talk. Just talk. Maybe this is just me thinking as a simplistic person, but just talk. Communication is everything. And if you're not talking, you're not moving towards a goal, which is avoid a lockout.
Mm.
Talk.
I think the Dodgers are great for baseball because, again, like, to have a team willing to spend and go after. I don't think Steinbrenner's Yankees, and I'm talking Papa Steinbrenner, was ever bad for baseball. It was great for baseball.
You
Again,
hated it if you were every other team, but again, I agree. It probably was good for baseball.
There's something to be admired about a team that's going to spend and go for it, right? We all wish we had that owner, right? There's an envy, there's a jealousy.
But then didn't it also make like the Cubs winning that much sweeter? The Red Sox ending their curse, didn't it make it that much sweeter knowing that they beat the dreaded Yankees?
Of course.
The Yankees
Of
didn't win it
course.
all.
Of course. Like, all these teams are owned by billionaires. Like, the idea of crying poor that there isn't money to spend or invest as opposed to put in your back pocket or to take in through all the different luxury taxes and, revenue sharing and stuff like that. That's not what any fan wants. And it's really probably, to me, as much as anything, getting the Pittsburghs, the Miamis, the Tampas, the A's, wherever, Vegas eventually, off the mat. It's bringing them up to not where they can't compete. We've seen certainly Tampa qualifies to field a competitive team, but that it doesn't become an automatic that when fill in the blank Tyler Glasnow reaches a certain, hey, we got to move off of him, or that Paul Skeens days as a Pirate are numbered. Like, we shouldn't be living in that world, right? There's got to be a better way, and it requires some spending. If it's forced spending, so be it, because we can't make the owner sell.
Like, how do you expect your fans to support you, support your team, go to the stadium, buy the merch, do this and that, buy concessions, if you're not willing to put out a quality product, if you're not willing to keep your quality star players, if you're not willing to field a quality team that is competitive, you may not be the best. You may not be the Dodgers, but there's nothing wrong with being a wild card team.
Right.
Every once in a while.
And baseball's
be competitive.
Baseball's had parity. Like, and you're going to have some incompetence like the White Sox are currently going through right now. But, like, it's the idea that you are capped at, hey, we can't do any more than this. Like, that part needs to be addressed for sure. Marc Daniels will join us coming up next. We'll talk about this. We'll talk about some of the NFL news and more.
Utah, Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma. From somewhere else in the country, let's welcome the host of the Beat of Sports as a guest on his own show. Here's Marc Daniels.
Beat of Sports, FM 96.9 The Game. Mike Tuck in for Mark, who is set to travel to West Virginia as the Knights will close out the Big 12 regular season with the Mountaineers. Mark, I would almost think Pittsburgh. Where do you fly into when you go up to West Virginia?
Well, if you're on a charter like we are, you do get to go to Morgantown.
Okay.
But if it's one of the
right.
bigger planes, then, yeah, you would go to Pittsburgh. Charleston has a bigger airport, but Pittsburgh's like 70 miles away.
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking.
What do you think?
Go ahead.
Weather is in Morgantown?
Ooh. Well, it was rainy up that way the other day. I don't know, like 50s.
Yeah. Gray, rainy.
Yeah.
Overcast.
Vacation spot.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's not snow, so it's not bad.
Hey, you're playing indoors, right?
Yeah.
Don't have to worry about that.
Anyway, can I ask you a trivia question?
Oh, I love trivia questions.
I
Fire away.
was doing some prep work on something basketball wise. Do you know what current Magic player, went up against B.J. Taylor and Taco Fall at Madison Square Garden?
What current Magic player went up
Played against Taco Fall and B.J. Taylor at Madison Square Garden?
The
purpose of Denton Bain played at TCU and played UCF in NIT Final Four.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's a good one.
Yeah. Just went through that. Wait a minute. That's Desmond Bain.
Yeah. Desmond Bain was a damn good college player.
Yeah.
You ever find yourself like when it bugged me out because I had two things happen to me yesterday. One was sort of a funny thing. One was more of a cutesy kind of a thing. And like both just fake stories, AI generated. Like it feels like I can't trust anything I'm reading online anymore or seeing online.
Yeah, but the sad thing is that also applies to a lot of people, quote, in our industry that just are throwing stuff out there against the wall too. It's incredibly confusing. I mean, you see a video and like I'll send something to my wife and she goes, "It's AI. The guy's got 9 fingers." I'm like, oh wow, look at that. She's right.
Like when you see her, it's like it feels like, oh, that's like too good to be true or too cute to be like. Like, let me check. It's got to be fake, right? Yeah. I'm on X, Twitter, and like it feels like whenever I click, and sometimes I don't even want to waste the time to click, but you click on it to see the comments. Almost inevitably, the first one is, "Hey, Grok, is this real?" Like it's like immediately our reaction, like this can't be real, right?
Right. Yeah. Sadly, that's just become what we typically do with everything. So.
Yeah. Lou Holtz passed away yesterday at the age of 89. I had the privilege a few times to get a chance to interview him on the radio. What were your thoughts on Lou Holtz?
Well, the irony is in late November, the Orlando Touchdown Club hosted a night with Coach Holtz and Lee Corso. And it was an incredible event, one, for the people that were able to get those two to agree to come. And what an amazing night. It was the last public appearance that Lou made. And I'll tell you, Mike, both of those guys were incredible that night. I was fortunate to sit 2 seats away from Lee, and Lou was a table behind. And both were so sharp, so nice, wonderful to people. And when they got done with their Q&A with Andrea Adelson, Lee left with the person that brought him there, and Lou wanted to stay. And Lou was sitting down at one of the tables, and it was Andrea Bianchi and I up on the stage just talking about college football. And then he just kind of mentioned something about Lou, and all of a sudden Lou, he put his hand up. He was on for 10 minutes talking about something and about this particular game and about that notion that he remembers and all sorts of stuff. And he was fantastic. And I'm going to remember that. A great football coach. A guy that certainly was proud of his coach. A lot of great stories, and one of those great names in college football that you started to see pass. So I'm grateful that event took place in November here in Orlando. And of course, Lou lived here for a long, long time and called Orlando home.
Yeah. Busy few days. Actually, no, I'm gonna change my mind here. I'm gonna do this here because Coach K was on a Jeff Goodman's podcast, and unlike a lot of people, I think addressed the idea of the NCAA tournament expanding, and Charlie Baker suggesting like it's inevitable, whether it's going to be 72 or 76 or 98 or whatever the enormous number might be. And there's part of me that acknowledges, like, with over 350 schools in 1A basketball, it's not outrageous to expand it. But then there's a part of me that wonders, like, is it necessary to expand it? Where do you sit on what value there could be in expanding it?
Zero basketball reasons to expand the NCAA tournament. And I would use the current season as another example. Look, UCF is, with the last week, has entered a cloudy bubble, that they're trying to survive that bubble. But we're still debating Auburn if they're on the bubble. I mean, we're arguing over teams that are like 16 and 14, that are several games under 500. And there's no reason that we should be arguing about that. And now we want to grow this thing to 72, 76 or more. For what? It doesn't make any sense to me. I think the model works. The only thing they're going to sell you is that more games on television means more money. We're not leaving out anybody. And I say this as someone that desperately wants UCF to get in. If UCF doesn't play their way in, the system's not unfair. They didn't play their way in. They didn't win enough games. We're arguing over teams that are struggling to be 500 in conferences or teams that are barely 500 overall, and the tournament's not going to miss them. It's okay. Usually the cream rises to the top in this event, and we're arguing over teams that shouldn't even be part of an argument. What I'm going to find interesting, Mike, is that whenever the dust settles, and I don't know if it's within the next year or two, or whenever we're doing the college football playoff, and a slow reconfiguration of whatever we're going to call this thing. And I don't believe we're closer to a super league. I just think that you're going to see more things about, hey, we're doing 16 and we're going to 24, or we're going to change the bowl system. Someone's going to look at college basketball. And as much as I love the idea of Fairleigh Dickinson winning, 350 plus teams do not play Division I basketball. They don't. I mean, some conferences, when they play and upset somebody at the 12-20 game on a Thursday, okay, be honest, are you going out of your way to find the Patriot League championship this weekend? You're not, okay? No one's racing to watch the Northeast Conference championship game. And someone's going to ask the question, forget about changing the NCAA tournament. Let's take a look at the model, because, the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12, it is different college basketball than the smaller conferences. And I'm not saying that they should lose their bid. I'm just saying that, maybe we don't need 350. And what's the system and the model to that? Like, I would be opposed if you wanted to expand the tournament, fine. Then let small conference teams play an additional round or two to advance, and still give them a slot. And I'm not saying that means we open up spots for teams that go 16 and 16. But I'm not quite sure that we need 350 teams. Same thing in college baseball. It's ridiculous. Just because someone said they want to go D1 doesn't mean that they should be allowed to go D1. But a long answer to your question, I don't see any basketball reason to expand. I don't even like the concept of 68. I can't stand it, especially when you make the 16 seeds play.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Yes.
It's the dumbest thing in the world. If you want to take the final few at large candidates, but to make a 16 seed in the current model that says, hey, you win your conference championship, you get the automatic bid. That's not the NCAA tournament. It's a play-in game.
And it also bugs me out. You not hating, but you get credit for an NCAA tournament win if you're one of those teams, winning it's not quite the same thing as actually winning an NCAA tournament game. 100%. By the way, you would draw more interest if you just had the final 8 at-large teams that are probably bigger power schools playing in those games anyway. And I know they wouldn't do it for this reason, but the guy after us, I just don't think he knew what he was talking about when it came to this yesterday. They're not doing it for the little guy. If they're doing it for the Auburns, they're doing it for the big guys. I know. And he's saying, "Oh, I don't want the little guy in." It's nothing to do with the little guy. Believe me, it's not why they would be doing it. It's to get the power schools that are 500 and more of the Florida States and the Auburns and teams of that nature into the tournament.
There's nothing more than that type of national media personality that joins college basketball the second week of March.
Right.
And,
Right.
it's like I brought this up. It was it was the Monday after Duke plays Michigan in an incredible basketball game.
Yeah.
And Stephen A says, I wish the game was played in Cameron or at Michigan. Why? It was a Final Four atmosphere with a sold-out crowd that drew 20,000 people. And then I wanted to go, now name another player not named Boozer on the floor. And then we'd have a problem with that conversation. And now the national guy wants to tell us how we should change the treatment in college basketball.
Right.
I mean, I love the landing pit for that group in the second week of March. And the best is in 2 weeks when they'll tell me why they like a certain 12 seed to win.
Yeah. Well, correct. I saw floating out there yesterday about, like, again, misconstruing the Bruce Pearl, Auburn, and Miami, Ohio. And someone was literally saying, Miami, Ohio goes undefeated. They will be in because they'd be undefeated. And they would have won their conference.
Right.
And there's no debate if they're undefeated. They didn't understand that they would have had to have lost a game to not make it. So that's, yeah.
No, but it's the same. What 1 quad 2 are. They have no idea what you're talking about. And by the way, Miami of Ohio is going to make the tournament. Even if they lose in the MAC, they're going to be in the tournament because the committee's not going to leave them out with their undefeated regular season. The argument that hardcore basketball people make about quad 1 and quad 2 is legit. They don't have any games against them. Now, the argument also is they made an effort. They tried to schedule teams, and teams wouldn't play them.
Right.
So, I mean, they're going to get in. It's not going to ruin the tournament. I don't know what seed they're going to get, but they're going to get in. They won't win the national championship, but they'll make the tournament so everybody can settle down.
Right. By the way, it's scientific in the sense that they created it, but I do like the wins above bubble, the WAB little statistic that they've introduced this year.
Bubble has gotten more credence with the committee the last few years than net or the old RPI or even Ken Pomeroy. And if you're a UCF fan, you like that because wins above bubble has been kind to UCF even this week, despite what happened the past week. So that is their strongest metric that you hope is used by the committee.
All right. They're going to rebound against West Virginia after the last couple of tough losses?
We'll see. It's going to be it's hard to go there. They'll have a great crowd on a Friday night. They're playing for a lot. UCF still can be a 6 seed and get a first round bye. That's the goal, is to get that first round bye. If they win, that's automatic. There's some other things that can happen should they lose. I think a win makes you feel a lot better because then you're 21-9. You get a 10th conference win in this league, which is hard to do. But we'll see. Like everybody, they're walking wounded right now, and then mentally, how they lose in a couple of games like that. And it's weird, Mike. I always talk about the journey. If you told me on Halloween, would you take 20-9 and 9-8 going to the last regular season game, I would have grabbed the pen and signed up quickly for it. But the journey puts you where you are. But you know what? It's heartbreaking if you're a UCF fan the last 2 games, but the drama of every game and every possession, Matt, I love it. I mean, I'm not playing, I'm calling these games, but the tension, what else do you want in March? So in a way, it's kind of a tournament game for them. If they win, they get that extra day's rest, go to Kansas City, maybe less pressure off you. What else do you want, man? Playing meaningful basketball games at this time of year.
Amen. They've delivered an entertaining product. There's no question about it. Safe travels. Yep. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you guys. Bye-bye.
Marc Daniels on his way to West Virginia, Morgantown. It's on paper, right? He described it really well there. On paper, it looks nicer. The numbers become rounder when you win. If you were to lose if you win the Big 12 tournament, you're not automatically. But if you were to lose, then it would just be the 10th loss in the season. It looks better. But this would probably make them feel much more comfortable if they're able to win tomorrow night.
You want to head into March Madness, head into the NCAA tournament with some momentum. And they had it. And they had it, after that BYU win, that was what, three in a row. You're feeling good. But then just kind of the last 2 games, not necessarily must wins, but, again, riding that momentum at the right time of the year. You're hot. You're feeling it. Now you just kind of crash back down to earth. It's a gut punch.
It is, but it's not one you can't recover from.
Right.
Inevitably, unless you win your conference tournament, everyone's going to be entering the NCAA tournament with a loss. Mm-hmm. Right. So history shows momentum is foolhardy. You can win a bunch of games and win your conference tournament and get knocked out in the first round. Yep. It doesn't guarantee anything going in. But for UCF, I said this off the air, I'll say it now. You don't want to lose these games, but they kind of went from where they were projected maybe as an 8 seed, 9 seed, to maybe a little further back. So if you're able to win an NCAA tournament game, if you get in, perhaps you get instead of the 1 seed in the second round, you get a 2 or even a 3 potentially, maybe a better chance to advance, big picture, into a Sweet 16 in
So
that scenario.
is that UCF playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers?
I don't think that's how they're dialing it up. I do not think that is the case. Cam Eller will join us next. We will recap the NFL Draft Combine and preview the NFL Draft next.
This segment is presented by Bowegan's Beer Company. Love data? Love analytics? Let's take a deeper dive into both as we talk to Cam Mellor.
What you know is very limited, and what you don't know is limitless.
The Chief Analytics and Data Officer at Pro Football Network. You can follow Cam on X or Twitter at Cam Mellor.
Mike Tucker for Marc Daniels, Beat of Sports FM 96.9 The Game. Ready to talk some NFL draft coverage. That's the time of year we're in. We just finished the NFL Draft Combine. No better we'd rather have on than our guy Cam Mellor to discuss some of these prospects he's been analyzing for the last 3-4 seasons, in some cases many more, in college sports nowadays. Cam, welcome in, buddy.
Oh, well, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me, as always. And nice to talk to you, Mike. It's been a while. So.
All right, very good. So everyone has varying opinions on the value of the combine, but I do want to present to you a number that sticks out just to find your reaction to it. Of the prospects that were there, 319 of them, only 6 did every drill available to them. How does that sit with you?
Hey, not well. I understand the days of old, and maybe date ourselves by saying we want them to do it. But I think maybe the way that they've shifted the structure to not have the bench press until the day after, like the guys are going to be leaving at that point. They've met with the teams. They don't need to bench the next day. And so maybe it's the way that we've scheduled it as well. Maybe it's the way that the NFL has scheduled the combine days for these guys. It's a 3-4 day long process where they're in meetings, they're in all of the media availabilities, and then they're supposed to go run, and then they're supposed to lift the day after. And it's just, there's a lot going on in Indianapolis that weekend and that week for those guys. And so I get it. I want to see them do all the things, but I don't know if we can blame the athletes as much as we can blame the schedule makers and the organizers at the event anymore. I think probably that is where I would go first, is fixing the actual way that it's organized and the way that it's structured before we get too much on it. Because I do want to see them do everything that's there for them.
Right. There's no question the pinnacle drill is the 40-yard dash. That's the one everyone gets most excited about. And if you were ever going to get excited about it, I suppose it would have been this year. 7 position groups set records for speeds at the combine. What does that tell you about either this group or Indianapolis or anything in regards to the fact that we had so many record setters?
Yeah, it's the evolution of the athlete. They're getting bigger, faster, and now we can officially say that they're getting also stronger, faster and stronger.
Right.
And we can officially say we're getting faster. And it's not just like the corners and the running backs. I mean, it's these dudes that are tipping the scales at 6'5", 300 pounds that are running faster than they ever have before. And I think you're no longer looking for speed. You're looking for guys that are going to fit your scheme in this class. We confirmed who they are on the field in Indianapolis. And now at this point, you're just looking to confirm their scheme with these 30 meetings that they're going to have over the next few months and pro days. We're looking to make sure that they can fit their schemes. I think the puzzle all fell into place for a lot of these guys that did run fast. And I think that's what needed to happen this year. But no, we're getting bigger and we're getting stronger and we're officially getting faster across the board.
There are many that will debate the value of drill to drill and what matters, what doesn't matter. Some matter for certain position groups, some don't. I think part of it is analytically, you put it all in a machine and you see what trends have shown us over the years and what succeeds and what doesn't on the next level. One of my favorite things to look at, but again, assess it person to person, position to position, is the relative athletic score, the RAS, that kind of spits back after players do enough drills that we can compute a number. What do you think about that particular metric?
So Kent Lee Platty, excuse me, got to get his poem in there. Math Bomb, the creator of it, actually, he's a coworker of ours, actually. So we have RAS, relative athletic score, and have been sort of aware of it since he developed the score. And honestly, I've run some analytics on it, and it not just correlates to success in the NFL level, it correlates directly to success in the immediacy in the NFL as well. And if you're athletic enough, you're going to shine in the right system. You know, it's always obviously you got to have some caveats there, and there's going to be some outliers. But
of course,
I love RAS. I think it actually spits out, like you said, it takes an amalgamation of numbers and scores from the field and really puts it into, things that correlate onto the field. So, what does a broad jump mean? Not necessarily everything if you can't jump high as well in your vertical. And so his numbers and what RAS does, it truly gives you almost like Madden ratings for all these players as well. It tells you how athletic these guys are going to be. It gives you their burst, so to speak. And I think what we've done is as you look at that. And so you look at Sonny Styles from Ohio State, who was basically a 10.0, no matter which position you plugged him into as well. And I think that's the cool thing, is that Sonny Styles is going to be an impact player immediately in the NFL.
Pro Football Network, College Football Network's Cam Mellor joining us here on the Beat of Sports. Mike Tuckin for Marc Daniels. One of the interesting pieces is when we have a guy who, and I remember Genty having the conversation with you last year, when you have a guy that plays in a position that isn't necessarily valued the most, but stands out to the point where many people are regarding them as one of the best players in the entire draft. And where do you take that guy? Where do you sit on the Love versus Genty debate? Not that it matters who's better between the two, but as far as where you think Love could end up in this draft.
Yeah, I think it's around that same time frame, top 10 pick. He, to me, probably a top 5 overall talent. And it's the devaluation of running backs. I feel like we've not quite reverted to where we were in the early 2000s or even the 90s when a running back was a vital spot in your offense, but we're sort of reverting to the mean here. And I think Jeremiah Love could be a 3-down back in his rookie year. And I think his combine performance actually gave us a little pause and say, wow, is he really even more athletic than what we thought we saw? I mean, that incredible running back duo too. He was the bell cow, and yet he didn't have to be because of Jadarian Price as well. But Love, to me, he's right there with Ashton Genty and where I valued him. I believe Genty may be a spot higher, but that might be relative to their draft class as well. So Jeremiah Love, it's sort of one of those, draft him and don't even think about it because he's that good type of player.
How do you feel about, when you look at the top 10, the idea that we have potentially a safety, we have inside linebackers, we have guards perhaps that on value of their ability probably should be top 10, but based on their position, maybe not. Where do you sit on that?
Yeah, it's so to me, it's if you're sitting there at 11 to 20, you have a chance to have a draft down slide, and you have value at your team's pick because of how we're going to overdraft some of these tackles. Or if one of those tackles goes off the board early, then we're going to be reaching for a player who's probably in the 20s. But because of the scarcity of the position, you're going to have to move up to get that player. So you have a guy like Caleb Downs or even Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end. So I don't know if we're going to see another Kyle Pitts because of how long it took Pitts to acclimate to the NFL and have his breakout year. So are you going to be able to get value, I think? So if you're one of those fans of the teams from 11 to 19, maybe, you got to sit there and say, okay, if the Rams draft Ty Simpson, that's a heck of a reach. So who am I going to be able to get that continues to slide down? Because no matter what we do say, we can gamify the draft class and the draft board. There's going to be positions that these teams are going to reach for, and there's going to be guys they're going to fall in love with, and you guys are going to be able to slide. So, hope is there for those teams in that 11 to 19 because of those.
After Fernando Mendoza gets his name called, the quarterback position is certainly in flux. And, several people have commented like the order of like 2 through 10 could vary wildly person to person, scout to scout, team to team. Who helped themselves at this combine the most of that group?
So it's easy to look at what Taylon Green did, the quarterback from Arkansas, and breaking the combine and setting the record and running almost as fast as Michael Vick and jumping as higher than Calvin Johnson. I mean, whatever the comparison you can have for a guy like Taylon Green, I think he helped himself in that sense, but he's still a developmental project. And so I think what we're actually able to see, Carson Beck had some decent throws and some of the one-on-one drills. And I think there's Carson Beck, no matter what we think of him and his big game, lack of big game prowess, probably the best word for it. And he probably helped himself because of who he was able to put himself in front of and make some of those throws. I wouldn't be surprised if Beck is drafted higher than most people think that he could be because of that, but also because of his whole body of work. But no, Taylon Green's the easy one in that sense. And then it's a matter of whether Ty Simpson was able to impress in the interviews as well.
Yeah, sort of as a viewer watching the arm strength and just the physical size of the guys next to each other that tends to stand out. You don't want it to overwhelm your evaluation, but you can definitely tell, like Haynes King as an example, ultimate college gamer, right, at Georgia Tech and A&M before that, but physically was no comparison for him and Drew Aller as an example. Like there was just no comparison when we watched the guys throw against each other. Who in general helped themselves the most at the combine?
I think it's Taylon Green. I think he put himself on the map to be a draftable quarterback, to be a moldable piece of clay that an experienced offensive coordinator can use and utilize. I mean, if Taysom Hill got a mega contract in the NFL, there's no reason Taylon Green can't be utilized because of his athleticism. I know he said he wants to be a quarterback, and that's fine, but put him in one of those wildcat situations. I would love to have him if I'm an offensive coordinator because of what he's able to do, how big, how fast, how strong he is. But then obviously both Styles brothers from Ohio State. I think if you're going to draft a linebacker, you're drafting Sonny Styles, and you're going to draft him in the top 10 because of how athletic and how incredibly gifted he is.
I'm not sitting here telling you, and I want your thoughts on this, that Arvell Reese is not a good player. But I watched him and I watched Sonny Styles, and there's part of me that goes, I think Styles, athletically speaking, probably better set up to be the pass rusher, and yet we're talking about Reese being the edge rusher. I'm not a big fan of converting players anyway, but how do you evaluate one guy versus the other and where they fit in the NFL?
Yeah, and I want Arvell Reese to be that edge rusher, and I want him to only be that. I think that's where his ability to shine was this past season.
Okay.
And I think if you look at how gifted that defense was, for the chances he was given, he made the most of them this past season, I think, against in live reps. And so it's one of those that, I probably wanted to see a little bit more of him, but in his 1 year as a starter, Arvell Reese, to me, I mean, there's the athleticism that he showed on tape and the plays and his fluidity that he was able to go from position to position in Ohio State. I'm with you. I don't want to move his position in the NFL. I want him to be there, and I want him to put his hand in the dirt and just get after it. And I think that's where he shined the most, and probably better than any other player did this past season. But him and Ruben Bain, to me, those two alone. But Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, it's hard to not say that those guys are going to be game changers immediately.
Oregon tight end Kenyon Sadiq blew it away. What does that mean?
It's sort of what I alluded to. I don't know if we see him up there, but he's sort of in that vein of a Kyle Pitts where he breaks the mold of the tight end. You want to draft him. You want him to be your quarterback's best friend, and you want him to line up and be the first read for that in most of your passing situations. I think what he showed at Oregon too was maybe some inconsistencies in his game, but I think that maybe there was too many mouths to feed in that Ducks passing attack, and they wanted to run the ball first. But that bodes well for Kenyon Sadiq. He got some run blocking reps and some good ones at that too. So I think I've always said it, tight end's the hardest position to play, not named quarterback in the NFL, because you have to run block, pass protect, pass catch, and then run after the catch. And so I think Kenyon Sadiq, with his athleticism, what he showed at the combine, proves that he's ready to do that at the NFL level.
It almost brings it back to the first thing I started with the number of guys that didn't participate in everything. There's a lot of guys that participated in some things, but not other things. I think one of the things that contributes to some record-setting numbers is the guys that thought they would be good in things really were great at those things. And the guys that didn't participate might have brought some of those numbers down and chose not to because they knew they wouldn't necessarily chart well or aren't ready to, or rather do it at their pro day. But of the guys that did, who hurt themselves?
Oh, that's tough. I'd have to probably say before the drills and before the on-field drills, Emmett Johnson from Nebraska, the running back, could have been in that running back 2 conversation. And I think now we watched Mike Washington Jr. from Arkansas help himself. We watched Darian Price do the same thing. Seth McGowan as well, as long as he's put the off-field stuff behind him from Kentucky. We saw a couple players that really pushed themselves up the draft board as opposed to Emmett Johnson, who maybe looked a little sluggish in his drills. And so maybe he can correct some things at a pro day. But we have the laser times of him being the slowest, quote unquote, from the running backs that chose to run. I think that's a great point too. Fastest because we have a lesser field to average out. But Emmett Johnson, I would say, to me, probably hurt himself. He was always a day 2 at best prospect, but now probably pushed himself in that day 3 conversation just because of a combination of factors.
I know we have Jeremiah Love at the top, but you start looking at the class in totality, and it's hard not to think back to half decade ago or so where we had a number of years where it felt like nobody was even worthy of a first round or second round pick. How do you look at the class in totality?
Yeah, it's there's a cataclysmic drop off after Jeremiah Love, and there's probably no other way to put it. It speaks to his volume, but I think it speaks to where we're at with also NCAA college football teams using that running back by committee and not necessarily showcasing them. I think we've reached to where college backfields look very similar to NFL backfields in that sense, and so a guy like Mike Washington didn't get all the looks he needed to get to showcase that athleticism. And so maybe he breaks the mold and gets into that day 2 range, but it wouldn't surprise me if we wait maybe 50 picks between Love and the next running back drafted.
Well, we got a lot of pro days coming up and a lot of mock drafts that don't mean much, but they're going to be out there between now and the draft, plus spring practice that are getting underway across college football as well. I'm sure you and Mark will have a lot to chew on in the coming weeks. Thanks for the time today, Cam.
My pleasure. Thanks as always for having me.
Cam Mellor, great stuff. You can follow him at Cam Mellor on Twitter, also at PFSN365, at PFSN College, Pro Football Network, College Football Network. They do great stuff up there. They had something up there about the defensive backs in this year's class the other day that was good reading as well. Come back. We'll get to the news next.
Let's really do the news.
Yes.
Now it is time to do the news.
But now it's time for the news.
11 o'clock, WYGM Orlando, WJRR HD2 Cocoa Beach, FM 96.9 The Game, AM 740, online and streaming at 969thegame.com. You can check out the video stream as well at YouTube, 96.9 Game On, and you can catch that same stream on Twitter and X as well. Chris Vasquez here with me, Mike Tuck, Marc Daniels traveling, UCF basketball. They're on the road tomorrow night to close out their Big 12 regular season campaign, taking on West Virginia, a rematch from earlier in the season. College hoops last night as well. The Miami Hurricanes secured another win. Jay Lucas, unbelievable. He may not win Coach of the Year, but he should be considered for the award. The job he's done with Miami, now 22nd in the land, on their way to securing a bye in the ACC tournament. Just an amazing first season there. Probably tells you a lot, too, like on an aside about Jay Lucas, the fact that Duke has not hired anyone outside of the family in a quarter century until last year when they brought in Jay Lucas. And not probably a surprise that they saw value in doing that. And now Miami is taking advantage of how good of a recruiter and how good of a coach he's been this year. Like, that stood out. It's like Duke doesn't do that. So it told you a lot about Jay Lucas, and now Miami is reaping the benefits.
Yeah, I mean, it's one season, but I mean, things are trending in the right direction, and that's all you can hope for.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get with new coaches when they step in, especially in today's world of college athletics with the transfer portal and paying players. But hey, when you get the good seasons, you ride that wave.
They got a good one. And by the way, the state of Florida's on one right now. Like,
Yeah.
I know UCF's lost a couple in a row, but projected to be an NCAA tournament team. USF leading their conference. They're in action tonight. They probably need to win the conference to get in, but they're in the tournament. Certainly Florida, Todd Golden, the job he's done has been incredible, and they're potentially looking at a 1 seed. They have you want to play great teams, right? That's, to me, what the college basketball regular season, what it's all about, is those games tend to help you. Even if you lose them, they tend to help you. But they lost to Arizona to start the season. They lost to Duke, and they lost to UConn, which are the other potential number 1 seeds, especially UConn when you start debating it, and UConn's got a better record and beat them head-to-head. So that potentially could be why Florida's 2 seed, not the end of the world. Their accomplishment as SEC regular season champions and how well they're playing right now is awesome. But if there's a reason they don't get a 1 seed, it's because of those early season losses to the teams they're competing against. In Michigan, obviously, the other one that they didn't play is on their way to being potentially the number 1 overall seed as the Big Ten champion.
Well, we talked about it with UCF, wanting to ride the wave going into the NCAA tournament. Florida's just been on a heater.
Oh, Florida's been red hot. And really, to me, where I wondered about them earlier in the year was their backcourt. But I got to admit, like, the backcourt's starting to play really well. And the fact they're putting up triple digits in games in college basketball, which is hard to do, tells you all you need to know about the Gators right now. Offensively, off the charts. Their front court's fantastic. And I think there's sort of a trend, if you look at the top teams in college basketball, the size they have in their front courts, the length that they have. If you look at Duke, if you look at Michigan, if you look at Arizona, and you look at Florida and UConn, all of them very long, very tall basketball teams, very good in the front court. Guard play is something that usually helps guide you. I think it's still important to get guys that can get into the paint, get downhill, and obviously shoot from distance is going to go a long way. But what all these teams have defensively in common is they are long and they're very big up front. As it always is, the crown jewel of Orlando's sports season is the Arnold Palmer Invitational down at Bay Hill. About half the field is in progress at this point, and it is Jonathan Vegas who is currently your leader at 5 under par. Daniel Berger is a stroke back at 4 under. Min Woo Lee is at 3 under through 9. Billy Horschel leads a group of 4 golfers at 2 under par. And then a notable, let's see, look a little further down here. Who else would be notable? Where did Scotty Scheffler go? Scotty Scheffler he must have, where did he go? He disappeared from my screen. Oh, here he is at 1 under par. Okay. He is currently tied for 8th place. He's probably the most notable guy out there on the course right now is Xander Schauffele, even through 4. So a lot of guys just getting underway their round. A number of guys will be out later in the day, which includes Rory McIlroy with a 1:30 tee time with Victor Hovland in that twosome. NBA, the Orlando Magic, back in action tonight. They will take on the Dallas Mavericks at home. Dallas, one of those teams that certainly trending in the wrong direction because of injuries. No Cooper Flag, so a little disappointing if you're hoping to see the potential Rookie of the Year for Dallas this evening. From the NFL, the Tampa Buccaneers announced they will non-tender running back Sean Tucker. So they will be looking perhaps to add to that room this offseason, whether it be in the draft or in free agency, with Rashad White also a free agent and probably looking to play elsewhere based on his own messaging this offseason. So Sean Tucker now non-tendered. He could find a job somewhere else. A lot of connection to Tyler Algier because of Zach Robinson and his time in Atlanta, familiarity there. Probably a good compliment to Bucky Irving, frankly. There's pushback, and I want to even draw on you on this one, CV, a little bit. Is Rico Dowdle's like, hey, I want to get paid, right? Played really well, had a couple of splash games last year for Carolina when Chuba Hubbard got hurt, and then sort of wrangled the job away from him. But Chuba's under contract, so he'll be back, and who knows what else they'll do there. But Rico's like, I want to get my own. These jobs aren't like readily available. There's one starting running back job everywhere. Tyler Algier feels like he should have one. Rico thinks that he should have one. And reality is, you probably are still looking best case for either of those guys sharing a job.
Well, I mean, we just talked about it with Cam Miller. A lot of these teams they don't have the bell cow that we used to, even though it does feel like we're kind of trending more back that way.
Some places have them, yeah.
But a lot of teams still use running back by committee. And we haven't really seen guys like Tyler Algier, Rico Dowdle handle.
Tyler, we did his rookie year. Remember before they drafted Bijan, so he had 1,000 yards, and then they brought in Bijan, and he hasn't had to carry the ball as much.
But can these guys just maintain that consistency? That's the big thing. We see how fast these guys just deteriorate at the running back position. I mean, Zeke, great rookie season, and then every year after that's just been down. Saquon's been able to maintain. Derrick Henry's been able to maintain the level of consistency that you want to see with the bell cow, but they're not a lot. There's not a lot of those guys, and a lot of them do want to stick with a running back by committee.
Yeah, well, and even when
it also limits how much you'd have to pay them.
And a lot of guys start off in a committee anyway. I mean, Christian McCaffrey entered a committee with Jonathan Stewart, and then he went through his injuries. Barkley went through his injuries. Not everyone gets the job out of the gate. And when we just saw earlier in the week, Houston acquiring David Montgomery from Detroit. That doesn't mean Detroit's not going to add another running back to the room. How much that guy plays in comparison to Montgomery, as a complement to Jahmyr Gibbs, kind of depends on who they get, probably, right? Yeah. I'm sure they would like to have somebody to take a little bit off his plate when necessary. To me, the guy there would James Conner. Underline that 5 times if Arizona cuts him off of his injury last year. That's the guy that kind of fits, I think, would be not expensive.
He's kind of a
nice
forgotten piece. He's kind of a forgotten guy over there in Arizona.
Yeah. I mean, he got hurt this last year early in the season. Arizona never figured out the running back spot after that. But
I thought Trey Benson was going to be great. Him and James Conner, I thought that would have been a great dynamic duo.
He got dinged up this year too. No, he's got his own flaws. Arizona's got a lot of things. There's a reason their over-under is the lowest with the Dolphins going into next season. They got a lot of problems they have to address. But yeah, the Bucs probably, you would think, will address the run, not necessarily to take Bucky Irving's job, but you got to find maybe a complementary piece there because Bucky is smaller, right? You're not expecting him. Even Buffalo, for James Cook's success, and he's been awesome, right? They employ 2 other backs each game. Ray Davis plays. Ty Johnson plays.
And then you got Josh Allen taking some carries.
Josh Allen scores 15 touchdowns a year on the ground. So even in places where there is a bell cow of modern terminology maybe, you're still not taking every carry.
Right.
You're not absorbing every hit.
Yeah, you're not going to see a 300 carry season.
No,
those are very few and far between, if at all.
Right. And so if you're a Falcons fan or even a fantasy owner of a Bijan or a Jahmyr Gibbs, don't think they're not going to have somebody else there. Right now they don't, but they're going to clearly bring somebody else in to play a complementary role because you don't want to grind them to a pulp either.
Yeah.
Steph Diggs got released yesterday. Probably a financial thing as much as anything, but certainly his off-field behavior didn't contribute to it because you could always renegotiate that deal. I don't know how those conversations went or didn't go this offseason. We talked a little bit earlier on the bridge about what his future might be. Certainly New England could be in a market for a wide receiver now. They have a couple of young guys on the team that they're still developing, but what their future holds now at that spot, you'll probably hear a lot of conversation about them trading for a guy or spending on a guy, and that'll be part of next week as we get into March and free agency.
I'm very excited for free agency. Stephon Diggs. I mean, I thought Kayshon Boutte was a number one over there, and Stephon Diggs came in, kind of did his thing. But yeah,
Boutte provided spark plays for sure, and Kyle Williams the same way. Kyle Williams, young kid out of Washington State, gave them a lot of big plays, but the quote unquote number one wide receiver, there's 32 teams. There's not 32 Jamar Chases in this world, or Justin Jeffersons, or Amon-Ra St. Browns. And they all come in different shapes and sizes too.
Right.
Like we kind of think of a Jamar Chase as being that guy, but Amon-Ra St. Brown certainly is not of the same physical stature, but garners that role the same. So New England may not get that guy per se, but they don't necessarily need it.
I was going to say, you don't necessarily need it because you can just kind of divvy out targets, and Drake May doesn't have to worry about force feeding someone's ego because he's not getting the ball 15 times a game.
Yeah.
You don't want that with your young quarterback. Let him spread the ball around.
That's some of the news that is out there today in the world of sports. I was not here at the beginning of the week, but I did spend some time, just like Chris Vasquez did, watching the NFL Draft Combine in Indianapolis last week and over the weekend. And I have several reactions. One, I want to ask you about size for sure. All right, we'll leave it at that and see what your thoughts are on it. That's coming up next year on the Beat of Sports.
Ready for more sports talk? Of course you are. In for Marc Daniels, here's Mike Talk.
11:20 on this Thursday morning on FM 96.9 The Game. Mark is traveling with UCF basketball. Chris Vasquez here alongside as well. You can check out the stream on YouTube or on X, 96.9 Game On. You can see our pretty faces as we talk to sports, if you want to match the faces to the voices. I went to like one of these wild adventure places years ago. It was back when I first met my wife, Chrissy, like we were dating or whatever. And we went and alligators there, right? Like people are swimming with the alligators and, stuff terrifies me. It makes me feel like, God, please don't I don't want to see someone get eaten right now. But I remember, I've gotten a few different times actually to like hold an alligator. Of course, it's mouth sealed or whatever. And that's kind of cool, right? The guy was educating us, right? Talking about the alligator. And he asked a very simple question. What's the most dangerous part of an alligator, Chris?
The mouth.
The jaws, right? That's what you're scared of is the jaws, right? It's not the little stubby legs, right? Or arms, right? That's not what scares you. It's the mouth. That's what's going to do the damage. Well, I'm going to draw that comparison to Miami defensive end Ruben Bain, right? It's not the shorter arms. I compared it to a T-Rex, but I thought this story played better. It's not the little arms that scare you. It's the mouth. It's the teeth. That's what terrifies you. So we talked about relative athletic score and some of these drills. All of that matters. And all these spreadsheets over time do matter, right? Not saying they don't. And maybe it tells you a little bit about the player Ruben Bain might become or might not become. But this is a player we should be afraid of the teeth, right? He may not become, and probably won't become, by the way, Von Miller. Probably won't become Myles Garrett. And we shouldn't be thinking of it in those terms. Sometimes that's where our brain goes. I don't think he's going to go into the league and have a 15, 20 sack season. He's not that player. But what he is he's a dominant defensive end that plays the run and the pass. He's a bully that will set the edge. He can be versatile enough to play inside or out. You can shift him inside on passing downs. You can run stunts with him. Like, he is a guy that does everything very, very well. And you can draft that guy high and have him be a tone setter. And people in Miami have talked about he set the tone these last handful of years for that program turning into what they have the last couple. Right. And I just want to put this out there because to me, he's not a 3-4 edge. He's not a stand. He is a hand on the ground 4-3 end. For the record, the teams that are predominantly 4-3 would be the Rams, would be Minnesota, Chicago, Carolina, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Detroit, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, New England, Seattle, Denver, Packers, previously under Hafley, and now Dolphins because of Hafley, right? Just putting that out there, right? Right fit, right scheme. You're going to get a monster. You're going to get some teeth. Don't expect, if you're expecting 18 sacks then you're in the wrong thing. But if you expect a guy to be great, I think that's the conversation we should be having.
I think where we as fans get caught up is we want to make a comparison. Like, who is this guy going to remind me of? Who does his game most emulate in the NFL? And then we kind of fall in love with the stats that they put up in college. Oh man, that's going to translate to the NFL.
Yeah.
And we're going to see that kind of production. It doesn't happen.
Right.
It doesn't happen. So we fall in love. You mentioned Myles Garrett, Von Miller. Man, he's going to be the next Von Miller.
Right.
Let them be them. Let them be the first them. Let Ruben Bain be the first Ruben Bain. And then I think, yes, your expectations kind of lower, but at the same time, if he exceeds at what you thought he would be, then your expectations aren't really lowered. They're met just in a different form.
Right.
And I don't care about the short arms. You know me. I'm not a combine guy.
And that stuff does matter in the grand scheme because that probably tells me that's my point. He's not going to be a 15 sack a season dominant pass rusher. Doesn't mean he can't be a great tone setting player for your organization, though. That's where I'm saying and that to fall in line with what you're saying, you should care because it's kind of tell you what role he needs to play, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but again, you can look at his film.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the championship game against Indiana, he was still pretty dominant.
Yeah. If you look at his games against some of the better tackles
He was
that
dominant.
they played on the schedule.
Like, I was watching the Florida State Miami game, and he was in the backfield, him and Mesidor, almost every play.
Right.
And I had brought up the Clemson D lineman from a few years ago and how they would translate to the NFL
Yeah.
playing separately because they weren't all drafted by the same team. And I think Clellan Ferrell was the one that really just kind of busted out.
Right.
Um,
That guy drafted the highest of the bunch. Yeah. Went up to 4 to the Raiders.
But then you look at how would Bain translate to the NFL without having Mesidor on the other side?
Right.
I think he'll be fine.
Yeah. Mesidor. All right. I'm gonna kind of rip through a few things. Here, age shouldn't matter. I get he's older. But I want to present a reality. If you look at every first round group, which by the way, Trent McDuffie, that trade, right? He's going into the 5th year of that deal, right? Only about half of any given draft class in the first round gets an extension. So you're looking at, for most of those guys, if they even make it the full 4 and get the 5th year even, right? Only about half of them stay beyond that. So I'm not as concerned if Mesidor, I believe in his ability, right? I'm presenting it in this way. If we believe in his ability, then who cares if he's 29 at the end of the first contract? Statistically speaking, there's a decent chance you might be moving on from him anyway. So to me, Mesidor fits with a team that wants to win now, right? That feels like, and look, your Cowboys might be one of those teams, right? Hey, we want to try to win now. Forget about projecting he's going to play for us 10 years. Who cares? If he can give us 4 outstanding years and he's ready to go today, that's what should matter here. Sometimes we get caught up with age and like, hey, will they be here in 10 or 15 years? Who cares in some cases?
Yeah, grand scheme of things. I mean, how many players in general, any position, any age, how many players stick with one team 10, 12, 15 years?
Yeah. I'm just drawing the line at 4 or 5 and telling you on average, somewhere between 12 and 18. It's a pretty low percent. It doesn't mean they're misses. Like Tyler Lindenbaum's going to be one of the biggest names out there in free agency, leaving the Ravens. They took him 25th. He played to a really good level, not the best guard in the league, not the best center in the league, but like really good. All right, wash your hands. Let's try to do it again. Like sometimes that happens.
Yeah, we don't know how the salary cap's going to be. You don't know what position or what needs you're going to have down the road in 3, 4, 5 years. So
you don't know if you're coaching or you're going to be the GM in 3 or 4.
Right.
Like try to keep your job for the next half decade.
Yeah.
And then you worry about it beyond that.
Yeah, I think to your point, I think we do kind of fall into the trap of what's he going to be like in X amount of years? What happened to day one? I'm getting through rookie camp and OTAs and training camp and preseason and then year 1.
Yeah.
Why are we worried about his second contract?
Right.
Worry about right here, right now.
And that can be problematic, not always, but like problematic when you're strictly drafting traits and trying to develop is you may not be on the back end of developing and they may never develop. History shows us it's at best a 50-50 split, whether that happens or not anyway. Really quick to rip through a few of them. David Bailey tested off the charts, the Texas Tech edge rusher. I would say Romello Height, though, was just as successful with him, right? I get it. Bailey has the better testing. Do not be surprised if Height, his teammate, ends up being the better player. That's strictly my opinion. Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs at Ohio State. Styles off the charts. I'd rather have Styles than Arvell Reese. I think he's a better player. I think he's going to fit his position better. And Downs is terrific as well. This is a draft where I think you should be drafting the best player available, not worrying about positional value because the positional value won't be there. I think teams could reach, better players could fall because of that potentially in this draft. Arvell Reese, to me, he's not an edge. I disagree with Cam. I don't think that is his best position. It reminds me a little bit of Aaron Curry, who went to Wake Forest and was a linebacker there. And they said, you know what, we're going to turn you into an edge. They drafted him 4th overall. He sucked at it. Bounced around the league. Like sometimes trying to change where a guy plays is definitely not in your best interest. In fact, I've seen it fail way more often than it's succeeded. Malachi Lawrence at UCF, Caleb Banks, Florida, both athletically tested off the charts. Both helped themselves immensely, probably into potentially the first and or second round for both of those guys. Here's some fun facts for you, all right? Mansour Delaney, the former Virginia Tech corner, now at LSU, might be the first corner selected. I like McCoy better out of Tennessee. I know he missed all of last year injured, but I think he's a better player. This one, I don't know how you feel about this. Just listen to this. Delaney only faced 35 targets, only allowed 13 catches, no penalties, no touchdowns last year.
That sounds pretty good.
Sounds pretty awesome. But there's part of me that's like, damn it, if like you didn't see many balls come your way, it's like, I kind of feel like I don't know what I'm getting exactly. It speaks to his brilliance, but also concerns me a little bit that you weren't seeing the ball more often.
But that was just last year, correct?
Yeah, just last year.
Okay, so what does film tell you year before?
I know.
What
I'm not saying he's not good.
Virginia Tech?
I'm presenting it as it's awesome, but also a little bit weird that there's not a whole lot to evaluate there because didn't see a whole lot of the ball coming his way.
Well, that tells you he's shutting down to where the quarterback's not even looking his way.
Yeah. Fernando Mendoza, only 6 dropbacks under center in his college career. I'm just putting it out there. It's
see
a
a
stat
lot
I
of
came
quarterbacks
across.
who typically tend to stay in shotgun.
Joe Burrow more than anyone else.
So that doesn't concern me.
Okay, just putting it out there. This one, Jeremiah Love, the Notre Dame running back. This is from Rich Rebar. This is a great stat. He averaged 10 yards a carry when he wasn't contacted until after the line of scrimmage. In other words, if he got through the line, he was getting, on average, 10 yards a carry.
That's got to speak to him and that offensive line.
Uh-huh. So the most common comp he's getting from players playing today is Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't see it as a 1-for-1. I get why the comp's there.
See, we're falling into that trap.
I'm about to make you even more angry than what I'm about to say. And I mean this. Like I always try to put great thought into this. The guy he reminds me of more recently is Fred Taylor, which again, super high praise, but that's who he sort of reminds me of athletically speaking. And then biggest picture, you close your eyes and his style of running, it's blasphemous to say almost, but he reminds me of Sweetness, Walter Payton. With the physicality he runs, the athleticism of straightaway speed, but also the ability the hurdling, if I close my eyes, he reminds me of Walter Payton. I'm not saying he's going to be Walter Payton. I'm just saying he reminds me of Walter Payton. I know.
It's a great praise. It's a great praise.
I know.
But again, people listen to that like, damn, he's going to be the next big thing wherever he goes. But maybe wherever he goes, that offensive line's not that great.
Right. And Ashton Genty's a great example.
Exactly where I was going.
And I like Genty more. I think Genty actually is a better running back, but I'm just saying that's who he reminds me of. Kenyon Sadiq, you know who he reminds me of? The Oregon tight end. He reminds me of Delaney Walker. Super athletic. In fact, if you look at side by side, same height, same weight kind of thing. Delaney actually ran a super fast 40. Like Sadiq was 4.39. Delaney was 4.4 something. I kind of view them in the same vein. A guy you kind of want to hand the ball to sometimes, like Aaron Hernandez, like that ilk. I don't think he's going to be a great player. I never saw a great player. He looks great coming off the bus. He's the first guy off the bus, man. And you're like, we got to play that guy. Like he just is an Adonis, but I don't think he's the next fill in the blank superstar tight end. But I do think he's a weapon. Probably will be overdrafted.
Again, depending on where he goes, he may not be needed to be a superstar tight end, but at the very least, you want anyone you draft to be serviceable.
Mm-hmm.
Make the team, make plays.
Right.
Maybe have a game or two where you're going above and beyond and you just have the game of your life. But you're not expecting them to ball out every single week.
Right.
I know it's horrible to say, spending millions of dollars, first round pick, this and that, but
they're not all Hall of Famers.
Exactly. You just, the very least, be serviceable.
Zachariah Branch, who's sort of a little electric guy, like just dances around, but this one I don't like as much. 60% of his catches last season were behind the line of scrimmage, at or behind the line. 51% of his catches were screens. If you're just looking for a comp, Kadarius Toney, right? Same sort of like jukey. He only had 29% though. Like I wouldn't take Branch anywhere on the first or second. Like he is specialty player. Like, and he's not even Tavon Austin. Like, Tavon Austin was like freaky athletics, but like, I'm not into this top 100 pick for Zachariah Branch. Not anything I've seen to suggest that that's how we should be thinking about him. Just putting that out there.
Maybe he's a special teams guy.
I know, but I'm not spending a third-round pick on a special teams
No.
guy. I'm just not.
I mean, if he can bust a big one every now and then.
I'm going to give you a fun little nugget, right? Because Ja'Jarian Price, the Notre Dame backup running back, could be the second running back off the board. We don't know, and certainly may not even be in the first round after Jeremiah Love gets drafted. No school has ever had the first two running backs taken in the modern draft.
I could definitely see that.
The Arkansas duo of McFadden and Felix Jones were close, but Jonathan Stewart got picked in between them. And if you remember, the Auburn guys, Cadillac and Ronnie, went really high, but Cedric Benson slotted right in between them in the top 6. So it's never happened before. It has a chance to happen this year. I'm just putting out, and it's a chance to happen. It doesn't mean anything. It's just kind of one of those weird little nuggets because you wouldn't think two running backs would be selected as the first two backs because it's a solo position for the most part.
Yeah.
But it speaks to how good Price was this past year.
Has there ever been two wide receivers from the same school taken first?
Maybe I have to look it up. It feels like that's very possible because we've had some really good combinations in recent years that probably is a possibility, but I'd have to look to be sure. Like Judy and Ruggs were definitely both up there in recent memory. But we should look that up during the break. I got a question about the Dallas Cowboys for you in an investment they're considering making and whether or not you would do it.
Okay.
That's next here on the Beat of Sports.
Just because Marc Daniels isn't here doesn't mean there's no beat of sports. Filling in for Mark, here's Mike Talk.
Beat of Sports, FM 96.9 The Game, AM 740, Orlando sports leader. Mike Tuck, Chris Vasquez. Mark will be on the road tomorrow, but on the show tomorrow, hosting from Morgantown, West Virginia, as the Knights wrap up their Big 12 regular season. CV, a big Dallas Cowboys fan, as you all know, wearing his Cowboys hat today. No Fire Jerry.
Not Fire Jerry.
No, just the Cowboys hat today.
Salute to service.
They have a bit of a decision to make, as they had several, as it concerns the future contract of star kicker Brandon Aubrey.
I thought we were sticking with George Pickens here.
See, I told you it would be a little bit of a twist.
I thought we were going to go off of Dak's comments about betting on yourself.
No.
Okay.
So where do you sit on what they should do with Aubrey and his contract?
I love Brandon Aubrey. He's been phenomenal since coming into the league a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I thought last year maybe he got a little bit cocky. He's got that smooth kick,
Mm-hmm.
and he missed a few
Mm-hmm.
chip shots. He was offered a deal. I say chip shots.
I know for him, but honestly, he didn't miss any chip shots last year. If you did look, I mean, nothing under 50 yards he missed.
He was offered a deal to become the highest paid kicker, and he was looking for even a little bit more. At I believe it was $10 million a year.
Mm-hmm. Although, from what I read anyway, Dallas offered 5.8, which wouldn't be the highest kicker.
Everything I've read, they've been in the just above what Harrison Butker
Harrison
makes.
Butker makes the most. In case you're looking for perspective, Butker makes 6.4. Jake Elliott's at 6. Dicker's at 5.5.
Yeah, I saw somewhere in the 7 to 7.5 range.
Right.
I've even seen Nick Wright offer Brandon Aubrey a Patrick Mahomes type deal, 10 years, $75 million.
Okay.
I love Aubrey.
Yeah.
Again, I thought he got a little bit cocky last year.
Uh-huh.
I would be okay if he left
Okay.
and the Cowboys got a second round pick for him.
Okay. You're not, everything you said is right. And this is where it gets to be a little bit tricky, right? Like every Chiefs fan loves Trent McDuffie, right? There's no question. Like you'd rather have him on the team. Patrick Mahomes' reaction tells you, yes, he's a terrific young player early in the prime of his career, right? These are always difficult decisions to make. Aubrey's got the best leg in the league. Now, statistically, last year was 36 of 42, including 11 out of 17 from 50 plus. No real shame in that, but it's also not best kicker in the league statistics, if we're just being honest and evaluating the year. Like, I just don't think you can pay him anywhere close to 10, and I think it even becomes questionable for any team once it starts getting up to the top of the market there. Not because they're not worthy of it, because winning games with a kicker you trust is very important.
Having someone
the margins are slim.
Having someone being able to kick from midfield, and you're more confident that he's going to make it than you are knowing he's going to miss it.
Right.
If that wording makes sense.
I hear you.
But to me, it also kind of, you rely too much on it. Like, all right, you know what? Let's not push it too much. We're in field goal range. Let's just try and settle for the 3.
Mm-hmm. All right. So here's why. I'm just going to give you the simplest comp I can. So last year, Dolphins kicker Jason Sanders missed the entire year. All right. Got hurt, just never came back. And part of that might have been because his replacement did so well. Riley Patterson, who they signed off the street, kicked in the league, right? There's a lot of these guys. There's probably, at any given moment, it feels like 40 or so kickers that could kick in the National Football League. I think that's a pretty fair number. I mean, you got Aubrey from, was the XFL, one of the defunct leagues that it's out there, right? Riley Patterson last year went 27 out of 29 for the Dolphins in 14 out of 15 from 50 plus. Does he kick it as far? No. Was he awesome and excellent? Yes. And he was the guy that Miami just tabbed before the year. All right, you're filling in for the year. He was the backup that made a little over $1 million, and they got wonderful results. It's a little bit like running back. It's not that there isn't a difference of a Justin Tucker in his prime or an Aubrey. Like there is a Vinatieri there is, but is it worth the difference in where you might be able to bring in another great player or allocate that money towards multiple things that would help your roster out? I don't think it's worth fighting the fight. And it's not a knock on Aubrey. Someone's going to pay him. He probably will get that $7 million potentially from somewhere. But when I look at that, and that's what the reality of the league is, you can find it. You can find another kicker.
And I'm seeing, a team like Green Bay kind of messing around. Even thoughts of maybe tampering with Brandon Aubrey right now. I don't know. I haven't really seen him kick all that much in the elements. Let me see him kick in a Philadelphia, in a Green Bay, in a Buffalo, in a Kansas City. When the calendar says
breaking news. I'll get
DJ Moore.
Finish your statement. We'll talk about it in 30 seconds.
I want to see him kick when it's snowing, when it's windy, because you can very easily take a kicker out of the game.
Yeah.
Again, I would love to have Aubrey on my team. Cowboys play in a dome. 8 games a year, sometimes 9. I just when the calendar turns to January, December time, you're outdoors. I don't know.
The breaking news, and then we will go to break and maybe address it when we come back. DJ Moore has been traded. The Chicago Bears have traded their wide receiver. There's been a lot of scuttlebutt that would be the case for financial reasons, production reasons, fit in the offense reasons. It's not that he's not a good player, but whatever. The Buffalo Bills, which just strikes me as like, really, Buffalo? You keep adding the same similar kind of skill set to your offense. That's my initial reaction. Buffalo has acquired DJ Moore from the Chicago Bears. Do not know of the compensation. I'm scrolling through. Schefter has it, but I don't see it yet. So we'll come back and let you know what that compensation is. Plus a very interesting stat from the NBA.
And I want to ask you something real quick about,
yes,
we can do it on the other side of the break, but I want to ask you what this means for another wide receiver.
Okay. Very interesting stat from the NBA in reaction to the trade in the NFL that just went down. That's coming up next as we wrap up the Beat of Sports on this Thursday on FM 96.9 The Game.
Time for the latest news, gossip, trends, and off-the-wall stories. Trends.
That's the craziest thing I ever heard.
Mike Tuck wrapping up the Beat of Sports today with Chris Vasquez. Marc Daniels will be back on the air tomorrow. 7 tournaments underway in college hoops, trying to crown conference champions into March Madness. Something to keep tabs on. World Baseball Classic starts tomorrow. United States takes on Brazil. Really quick NBA stat for you before we address the NFL news. You realize the bottom 10 in the order, like Tankathon, have lost 44 straight games right now.
Yeah, that's
crazy. Someone's going to have to play each other. I haven't looked at the full schedule, but 44 consecutive games for the worst 10 teams in the league is nuts. Darnell Mooney just got cut, or will be cut by the Atlanta Falcons, but DJ Moore gets traded. Compensation is not out there. Here's my prediction. I'm going to say it is a 6th-round pick in Keon Coleman for DJ Moore.
I can see that. Let me ask you real quick, because one of the receivers thought to be potentially on the move was Mike Evans.
Yeah.
The rumored destination was Buffalo. Buffalo addresses their number 1 receiver spot. What does that mean for Mike Evans?
Mike Evans will have a market. Maybe it's New England. Mike Evans is going to have a market.
Oh, for sure.
Tampa's not going to get him on the cheap. Tampa's going to have to probably get up to a number maybe north of where they want to go. But he's going to have a market, I think. I just don't get the DJ Moore thing. Dalton Kincaid, Shakir, Moore, they all run similar route trees. I just don't like the fit, personally.
DJ Moore was that number 1 guy.
Yeah. Looking forward to finding out the compensation, though. That's not out there yet from Schefter or Rappaport or anybody else. Stay tuned. You'll find out about that. CV, good work today, my man.
Thank you, Tuck.
Bianchi Kravitz coming up at 3. The Herd coming up next. I will talk to you guys next week. Have a great weekend.